Yeah, water.
Well, we only serve paying customers, so you'll have to order more than water. If you're broke, go somewhere else.
50 dumplings. Is it a deal?
Huh?
You feed me, and I'll take care of those guys for you.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Rule 38 podcast, the podcast where we talk about whatever we want, however we want. If you are a returning listener, thank you as always, but if you're new to this podcast, well, welcome to my random thoughts. For those of you guys that have been wondering, that little monologue at the beginning of the song has nothing to do with the episode itself. It's just something that I like from anime that I'm watching at the moment. Yeah, that's literally all it is. But I just want to apologize for my absence in this last 2 weeks. I really am sorry. I've been insanely busy with work for this past 2 weeks, and I never really had any time to record anything for you guys. But I'm back now. People have been messaging me, asking me when the next episode is coming out, and well, this one is for you. So today's episode, we're gonna talk about a controversial topic as usual that's been on my mind for quite a while, actually for a few years. It's one that basically gets spoken about in hushed tones. It's a topic that everybody should have an opinion about, but most people won't say anything about it. I don't think so much is out of fear or being afraid of anything. It's just more of they're wanting to keep the peace, I guess. But yeah, today we're going to talk about my big, huge, massive, ginormous problem with political correctness. If you don't know what being politically correct is, it's just another thing for people to cling to because they don't want to be offended by what other people have to say. And honestly, I think it's insanely stupid because that's not life. That's censorship. I'm not saying that words don't hurt, because they definitely do, but the potential for words to be positive and destructive at the same time is exactly the same. So what is this political correctness culture that I'm talking about? It basically it's speaking in a way that's intentionally phrased to avoid offending groups or individual people that have certain social characteristics like race or gender or sexual orientation or ability and stuff like that, man. So it tries to avoid, obviously, overtly being negative towards these groups of people and to perpetuate certain stereotypes that we all know and sometimes share with different people. So obviously that's what political correctness was meant to help alleviate and help remove. But political correctness can be applied to any situation regardless of how juvenile or how stupid the situation is. People these days will find a way to make it politically correct. For example, political correctness culture will tell you don't say policeman anymore. They will say, instead of saying policeman, rather just say police officer, because we don't want to offend females within law enforcement. Then the other thing, which is one of my favorites, to help promote religious tolerance or religious okayness for everybody, why don't we stop saying Merry Christmas? Let's rather say Happy Holidays, because we don't want to offend anybody who isn't Christian. And recently, the most visible uses of PC culture you can see when it comes to dealing with gender-based bias or, well, gay rights or anything to do with the LGBTQ community. Now, my opinion on this is that today, when negative things are said or happen to us, everybody's first instinct is to run and avoid it. Because regardless of what the negativity is, you feel like it shouldn't happen to you. And yes, that's true, but that's not life. in life, things are going to happen to you in ways that you didn't want it to happen, but that is not going to mean that it's going to stop from happening. Now, with this PC culture, people are overusing it because they don't want to deal with problems and negativity and things like that. But I guess my biggest problem with political correctness is that it is extremely unrealistic. Now, obviously, like everything that exists, there are certain pros and cons to political correctness. If you don't believe me, well, let me explain what I mean to you guys. One thing that we need to remember is that most of our views on certain people, if you don't have a deeper history of interacting with these types of people, most of the time our views are influenced by things that we hear about different people, things that our neighbors say, things that our friends say, things that we hear our parents say, any family member, anybody around us. Usually our thoughts are influenced about certain people by what we hear other people say about them. So having something that keeps you in check when you want to say something that might not come across as being very savory to certain people, it's good. That's a good thing to have. And that's basically what PC culture was meant to try to avoid. It was meant and first basically invented, the idea was put forward first to help prevent social exclusion of certain people. But, and yes, that's a very big but, lately all the political correctness is doing is making the use of certain words offensive where no one actually found those words offensive in the first place. In terms of discrimination in any aspects, the only thing that's happening is people are using PC culture to shame other people from saying what they want to say, but actually the problem that is discrimination doesn't actually get dealt with. It's just pushed further into being a taboo topic of discussion for everybody. Now, my point is that political correctness movement has gone way too far. While the original intent of political correctness may have been to encourage some sort of sensitivity around issues like gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, physical abilities and stuff like that, but the effect now of political correctness has made everybody avoid the topics altogether. And that really hinders our ability to get comfortable in living and working with those people who are different from us. It's gone so far that PC culture has become a bigger problem than the problem it intended to address in the first place. But the big question now is then, if we as people, as society, can't talk about our feelings, our fears, our aspirations, our anxieties, assumptions, our hopes, our worries, our dreams, or even our concerns, how can we ever build trust with those people that we see are different from us? If we can't talk about differences that we find very hard to understand or things that we are curious about without fear of being told that we are being offensive or fear of being shamed because of what we are saying, how are we supposed to progress as a society living with that mentality? If we must constantly self-censor any conversation about race, religion and things like that, then we're basically just doomed to fall into silence. And like that, things are never really gonna get solved, I guess. So for those of you who are part of this PC police of today, I understand that your intentions are good, but there is often a big gap between intent and impact. You need to understand that all you are actually doing is covering up the problem instead of allowing the discussion to take place that could potentially solve the actual problem. through us finally understanding these different aspects, viewpoints, feelings, and experiences of people that are completely different than what we are, maybe that will help us solve the problem. And finally, just by telling me that it is socially wrong for me to express my feelings and beliefs in certain ways won't make those feelings and beliefs go away. If I think that a certain person or a certain situation is stupid, just by you telling me, no, Brandon, you can't say that, that's rude, that's offensive. Yes, that might be true, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to think that that person or that situation is less stupid just because you told me I mustn't say it. Although you do get some people that might swallow up their incorrect words, if I can say it like that, but that doesn't mean that they abandon the feelings that motivated that words in the first place. Instead, they will hold that words inside, and it will just start becoming it will start festering and becoming more toxic and harmful than before, because they weren't allowed to express what they wanted to say. So again, I say political correctness is good, but the use of it is unrealistic. It's a good idea, but the execution of it really just sucks. Usually what happens is that people are very vocal when it comes to small things, but extremely silent when it comes time to deal with bigger issues. So I guess my point is, why are you opening your mouth in the first place then? Rather just keep quiet about things that don't need discussion and open your mouth about the more important issues. Instead of telling me I can't say that there are fat people, or that some people are fat, or that some people are stupid, or that some situations are negative, or stuff like that, by you telling me that I can't say those things doesn't mean that it's not the truth. So if my words offend you, that's fine with me if my words offend you, because that doesn't mean that I'm gonna stop saying it just because you feel offended. That's something you need to deal with. That's not my problem. So I hope that as a society, maybe one day we can get to that point where we just start, maybe just realizing that saying Merry Christmas is fine. We don't need to change it from Merry Christmas to Happy Holidays to offend people that are non-Christian. That holiday has nothing to do with you if you are not Christian. So yeah, but I hope you guys understand what I'm actually trying to say. So if you feel offended, you feel offended. I'm not going to get upset with anybody that felt offended, but if you do, just deal with it, I guess. But hey, it's that time of the episode where I got the hookup for you guys. So if you like architecture and you like looking at beautifully designed works of art, I guess, well, why don't you head over to an Instagram page called Nova Arc. That's NOVAARC on Instagram. It's a page that was started by a group of young architectural students to showcase their work. It's still very new, but why don't you just go over and show them some love. Let's actually go and check out what they have on the page so far. Maybe you would like to collaborate with one of them if you are into these type of art and things like that. Maybe you want to collaborate with them. Send them a DM. You never know. Get the conversation starting. For those of you that are listening, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you feel a little bit triggered, well, then you're triggered. I guess it's your problem to deal with. But remember, you can like and subscribe and rate this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, and on YouTube. So you can share it with your loved ones, share it with your friends, share it with anybody really. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter. We post every day. So this week I'm starting up again with the theme days. So catch us on Monday. You guys will see something cool on Monday, and every day throughout the week. Check us out on Instagram if you want to be a part of that. And yeah, that's it. Enjoy, guys. Thanks for listening.